Path, and today we have Joe Walters with us. I met Joe a few months back, and I'll let him go ahead and talk about how he got on this path and what brought him here. We're really both passionate about this whole community, this whole subject matter. So, Joe, how are you doing this afternoon on this beautiful Thursday, my friend?
Mark, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here. It's been a pleasure connecting with you, with your community. I just want to thank you for this platform, all that you're building. It truly is an honor to be a part of this and be here with
Thank
you
you.
today. So I'm really excited.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll dive right in. I really wanted to start with my story. So, as you know, as many of you may know, I go by the Positive Veteran. That's kind of what came out of my journey. It's my business. And I'm a military veteran. I served in the Marines from 2011 to 2015. So, before the Marines, I just kind of was like fumbling around in life, trying to figure out who I was, looking outside of myself, really kind of struggling to like really find my identity. And eventually that journey led me to the military. And after getting out of the military, I was really struggling a lot, really struggling getting back in society, really confused about who I was, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be, picked up some really great traits from the military, but also some really damaging ones. So substance abuse, alcohol, anger. I had a lot of things that I was dealing with as I was growing a business. So I got out. I started a construction company, and I was building that. And that went on for about 1 to 2 years. And honestly, my journey to plant medicine didn't come through looking for healing. As a matter of fact, me and my partner at the time, we don't even know why we decided to take the mushrooms. It was just something that kind of came into our consciousness, and we're like, we should let's try some mushrooms. And she had a friend at work that knew someone who cultivated it and did it really consciously. So we ended up getting some mushrooms and having an experience at our house. And the first time I took mushrooms, I took 3.5 grams of golden teachers. I will never forget. And I had an ego death that night. Well, I now call it an ego transformation. It's a term
Yeah,
that resonates a little more with me.
right.
But I didn't know what happened. All I know was I was going through this experience. I didn't know what was going on. I forgot what I took. I didn't know anything about my life. And this whole night proceeded, and there was surrender and there was let go. And, the next day, I'm like, what the heck happened last night? We told our friend about like what I experienced. She's like, oh, he had an ego death. I'm like, what the heck is that? So I went online, I typed in the word ego death, started reading, and I'm like, this is what happened to me. And it was just really profound. And before that,
Hmm.
my awareness level of my habits, my reactions, my connection to spirituality was as close to zero as you could get. I was
Right.
really disconnected, really didn't understand so much. And that first experience kind of blew the doors open for me. And I didn't have any community. I didn't know what the word integration was. I just had taken these mushrooms. I had a really profound experience. And I knew that something big had happened. So from there, I started to become a mycologist and begin working with these plants a lot more regularly. And over the next couple of years, I started to have experiences, and I was just doing it at home with me and my partner or me by myself. And I just knew that every time I consumed these, something huge was happening. And I wasn't changing overnight. There was frustration. There was like, wow, I have these insights, but I'm still in my old patterns. And there was even some self hate I went through for like a period of 6 months because on psychedelics, we gain new awareness. So I was
Right.
becoming aware of all the toxic patterns, all the ways I was acting. So it was really this journey of really coming to find myself and really breaking free of the person that I was to really embody who I was meant to be. So, long story short, that journey eventually led me to finding community. I ended up connecting with a community through a place up in upstate New York that did ayahuasca ceremonies. And I went to this event that they were holding there, a music event. And I found a community of dozens upon dozens of people doing conscious work, plant medicine ceremonies, psychoactive, non psychoactive. And this was really where I found like, whoa, I can talk to people about this. They understand what's going on, and I got plugged into a community of the spiritual underground that I didn't even know was around.
Right.
And that was about a year and a half ago, and from there everything kind of skyrocketed. And as I began to reflect on my journey, I began to see like, wow, like these medicines took me at my lowest point when I was had substance abuse, suicidal thoughts, all these things, and enabled me to put in the work to have these experiences and completely transform myself from the inside out. So
They
needless to
really do.
say, my construction business, I one day I just had a complete meltdown and was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not meant for this. My soul needs to be doing bigger work. So I hired my first life coach. I got out of the construction industry, got into life coaching. At first, I really didn't work with plant medicine. I was just like, I'm just a Marine who took some mushrooms and became a better person. Like, who am I to work in the plant medicine space? So I kind of stayed away from it. But really, the more I got into life coaching, the more I started to lean into what I was passionate about, the more plant medicine came to the forefront. And, from there, I started to dissect, how did I go from this person who didn't want to be alive to this person that loves every breath and that wants to make an impact in the world? So really, it was through that, through really dissecting my journey and becoming obsessed with personal development, with psychology, with the science of habits and change and all of that, that I really began to step into what I was meant to be doing. And so that's where I'm at now, continuing to build programs, continuing to learn. Psychedelics are a big part of my journey. And
Hmm.
did I freeze? Oh,
Yep. Just for a second.
all right. Psychedelics are a big part of the journey, but there's so much more to that. Like I said, habit change and really becoming a peak performer in all levels is just what I'm really passionate about. And I think psychedelics are a really great tool to get there. And they hold such a place in my heart because they really gave me a second chance.
You're definitely there living proof. And I mean, you just said something pretty important there about how you just went into the experience without the unknowing, and then the knowing came through just this experience. And then you took that experience and you divulged more. You went in more, you went deeper more. And look, because the military is, you guys go in the military and you're pretty shunned upon when you come out. And it's a pretty shame. And you go through a lot of traumas, knowing or unknowingly. You see a lot of things that rest of society doesn't see. So really proud of what you've done. And you do a few other things too. I mean, let's talk about some of these ice baths you do and all this other stuff you get involved with in these modalities in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. So when my spiritual awakening happened through that experience, like I said, I didn't have community, so I found podcasts, and I just became obsessed. In the beginning, it was spirituality because I didn't have strong spiritual beliefs. So in the beginning, I was listening to just dozens and dozens a week of episodes of different spiritual modalities, understanding these experiences I was having. I was now having out of body experiences, these different things. So in the beginning, it was very much spirituality. It was very much psychology, all the trauma that I was processing and moving through. And then eventually that led me into the personal development world. And before this, all of that, I didn't know what personal development. I didn't even know who Tony Robbins was. None of
Right.
that. So
Yeah.
that eventually led me to the Tony Robbins and the Jocko Willings, and I became obsessed with personal development and what that meant. So really, I had spirituality in the beginning that I really leaned to, and then getting back by the science of habit, and I just became obsessed with my relationship to my body also, because before. In the military, even like we worked out, we punished our bodies. We always had a negative outlook. We used negative self talk. We still ate like garbage. We drank like garbage. So now I had this newfound love for my body, and now I started to connect with it. I started to feel it. Started to tell me what it wanted. So I just dove down that rabbit hole, and I began to see that uncomfortable action is where magic happens when we can
Absolutely.
stay out of our comfort zone. So you
Right.
mentioned cold plunge. This is something I recently got into last year. The physical benefits. It helps our metabolism. It helps our immune system. It helps release things like epinephrine, norepinephrine, which helps our hormones. Like there's so many physical benefits. And then also what I really love about it is no matter how many times I've done it, my mind is like I don't want to do that. Like when it's time to go, I'm like cleaning the house. My mind's trying to like do other things, and it's for me,
Distract you.
it's like a form of meditation. Because in meditation,
Hmm.
the way I see it is you're just creating a relationship with the brain. The brain's like, I want to think about this stuff, and you're coming back to the awareness. So in this uncomfortable action of doing cold plunge, I'm like, listen, I know that you don't want to do this, but I call the shots here. And I think it's a really powerful thing to do, whether it's cold plunge. I also do like to do distance running. That's another thing that really pushes me towards that growth edge, physically helps me, and just like strengthens that muscle of the mind.
So let's talk a little bit about these cold plunges. I mean, do you have to have a bath for this, or can you start off slowly on this process?
Yeah, absolutely. And you could do showers. So I started off with doing some showers as well.
Hmm.
So, if you could take a typical shower, end off with cold in the shower. You can start with just a couple seconds, 20, 30 seconds, work your way up. You do build a tolerance over time. And the biggest thing about it is coming back to the breath. So whether you're doing the in the bath or you're doing it in the shower, maybe a tub inside, at first there's a shock to the body, but one
Yeah.
and your breathing kind of goes out of control. But when you tune into your breath and really sit with that pattern and really sit into it, it's your body, all of a sudden you tell your body it's okay, we're good, and it almost like numbs you out and you become comfortable in it. And so yeah, again, and for me, if I'm having a stressful day or if there's something I'm holding on to, whether it's the shower, the bath, it just is such a massive release and really changes the nervous system in a very drastic way. So I've seen some massive benefits. I love doing it in the mornings after my morning routine. So yeah, just a couple. Even if you just start off with just a little cold, give yourself a
Right.
spritz.
Yep. So let me ask you. I mean, we got all these masterminds of Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza, Vin Hoff. They all go back to the same thing, don't they? All about our breath. All about going back to that breath and getting a relationship back with it again. Because I think we've lost that over time.
Hmm.
So it's a pretty important thing. Pretty important. And you also do a few things with the psilocybin, don't you? You do some psilocybin sitting and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, psilocybin was at the core of my journey. I worked with that medicine for 3 to 4 years, most of it on my own. So I really developed a deep connection with the medicine because I wasn't working with people. I didn't know any better at that time. I don't recommend that for everyone. I like to say I got lucky through my journey, but I was
Hmm.
able to be grounded enough to get through those experiences. So I know firsthand the power of them, and I've had just deep connection and communication with them. So I just have such a passion for bringing that medicine out. So I do facilitation work. I've worked in the ayahuasca space, not serving, but facilitating, which is really where I got a lot of my like my deeper experience of like what that kind of facilitation looks and feels like. And I do mushroom serving facilitation, retreat styles. So I really love bringing people together with not the focal point being the psilocybin, because again, I think they're just a tool that are bringing us to our internal tools. So I like to
Right.
do retreats where we do the breath work, we do meditation, we have other modalities, we have ecstatic dance. So that's one portion of it. And then microdosing. When I got into coaching and I started to move back into the plant medicine space, a lot of people were looking for mentorship when it came to microdosing.
Right.
So I would facilitate. I would give them. I make either teas or capsules. I love the tea because it's kind of more of like a ceremonial thing, like in ayahuasca, you're drinking a brew. So I like
Hmm.
to sit down with the tea and set my intention with it, and I enjoy that aspect of it. And then I guide people through. Creating their own relationship to the medicine. Because at the end of the day, I think that's what it is. I'm not there to tell you what to take, how I'll take it. It's about you creating that relationship with it. And it looks different for every
Absolutely.
person.
Absolutely. Microdosing is so beneficial after a any kind of experience, even after some kind of integration. I think to get adapted to that medicine is pretty important. I think it's just a very good daily supplement for your mind as well as your body. Um, One thing I want to touch on is men in this space. I notice a lack of, maybe not a lack of men coming to the medicine in this space, but a lack of doing what we do. I guess what me and you do, standing up and speaking like what we do. I mean, I wonder, I scratch myself on the head sometimes and wonder how I've been here because, I was just that arrogant guy. And now I'm here trying to express all that to others. And, I wish more guys would come out in this space a little bit more and be more vulnerable like me and you. I mean, I think that's important because there's a lot of women in this space being vulnerable. And I think more guys need to be vulnerable.
Hmm. I agree with 100% what you said. And, being a coach, my social media presence is a big thing. And that's something that I think I take as a responsibility to really show that authenticity, to show my high moments, but also to
Hmm.
show those low moments. Because,
Yeah.
again, I think I went through my journey for a specific reason. Like, not everyone has what I realized, not everyone has that split moment where, like, one moment they were screaming vulgarities and punching holes in walls. And then this next moment, they have this incredible awareness. And I remember right after that awakening, I was really doing the work. I could like look in the rear view and really understand why those patterns were there. So I have this. My journey happened specifically to understand those toxic patterns, and again, like you said, I think vulnerability breeds vulnerability. So it's us doing these podcasts, it's us being on live streams, sharing our journeys, and showing people it's possible to change. I mean, there's so many people that say, people don't change, and they write that story. And a
Yeah.
lot of times it comes from people's struggle to change that they even write that story. But I'm living
You're,
proof that we can have that. We can have that awareness, and we can completely change fundamentally. And I don't even want to say change who we are, because I think at
mhm.
the core, that's who we are. We're just
Yeah.
getting rid of the layers that are in us. Is really
Absolutely. That's 110%. I mean, we don't want to change who we are. We want to get rid of those layers that are making who we are not. We want to get rid of those layers. And, you know, all of this is a program. We've all talked about how we're just programmed and this is a program. So the writing the story, we program that in our head that nobody can change. That's just a story because everybody changes every day. We just aren't aware of it. We become unaware and we become not the observer, but the follower after a while. And we don't do anymore and we stop doing and stop creating. And I think once we stop creating, we stop living. Just keep creating. I mean, my views are going to be different than your views. So we're all going to have different views, but I think we're quieted down too much. We need to speak up a little bit, silly or not. It is
yeah.
what it is. It is what
Mhm.
it is.
And
So
awareness is the superpower. Looking back on all of it,
awareness.
awareness was like 80% of the journey. After that awareness, it's like you can't go back to certain things, and you take the power away of those patterns. So really, it's radical awareness of everything. And that's what really brought me on the journey of health, nutrition. Why am I eating? Am I eating for
Hmm.
pleasure, or am I eating for nutrition? And that was a
Hmm.
whole other journey I came down. And we now know that 90 to 95% of the serotonin in our body comes from our gut. So what we
Hmm.
are eating is directly affecting how we feel, how we're showing up. So we're attacking all these mental health issues from the top down, when really it needs to be
Absolutely.
from the gut up. And this
100, 100%. And these medicines have that way. All that way. These are from the plant. They're from the earth. They have that way to get to the gut. I mean, the gut is our brain. The gut, I feel, is 80% of how we move ahead in our lives. It's really important. And we think this is important. This is so much more important. So much.
Absolutely. And that's why when I work with clients and I develop these programs, it's, I know holistic is a buzzword these days, but it's
Yeah.
holistic. We can't
Mhm.
just say, I want to do this habit and focus on this. Like, we have to focus on little things at a time, but understand that everything works together. What you're eating, what you're watching, who you're hanging around with, all of that is going to, you're either propelling you forward or holding you into the place you are. And that's really the approach I come to with all of these programs and all the work that I do.
And do you just do one-on-one coaching or do you have like a program? Do you just do one-on-one or do you have a program basis or how does your coaching work?
Yeah, so I just do one-on-one right now. Next year, I'm definitely going to be rolling out some more group work, group
Mhm.
challenges, and things like that. So yeah, I've been doing one-on-one work, but definitely moving towards the group programs as things continue to grow.
I love those. I like the groups a little bit and I like the one-on-ones. I like the small groups. The small groups seem to be where the connection's at. Then you start creating your community there.
Yeah.
So, Joe, a couple other things I wanted to talk to you about. Being on this path for how many years have you been on this?
Probably like 5 years, 5, 6 years now.
5? We all have to tell people too, this is a process and not to scare people from this or worry people, but we always talk about the work. There's work. But the work is kind of easy after a while once you become in tune and aware of some of these things. But isn't the work so gratifying? And we don't talk about this work as like a labor work. It's a work of seeing some prosperity in our
Hmm.
lives,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. I think you touched on something so great. So also, I recently this year got hired for a ketamine therapy company. They do in-home ketamine therapy. I'm an integration specialist there. And that we work with people of all different people who have never touched psychedelics before. So I really get to work with people and talk them about this kind of stuff. And what I'm really seeing is a lot of people expect the Western modality of medicine. I take this, I feel better. And
Right.
quite frankly, that's just not the case. And sometimes we do. Like I said, I had that first experience. I felt great in it and after it, but it came with periods of up and down, and there was challenge in there because
Right.
with this new awareness and with seeing ourselves, we have to be willing to look at our shadows and the things that aren't being effective in our life, basically owning our own stuff. And, just to give you, there's no timeline, and I don't want you to think this is forever, but I mean, for me, I can remember it was like 2 or 2.5 years the day I first had like a trigger come up and I didn't react and I responded
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
choice. It was like years. And I cried that day. I was like, oh my God, I have control over my life again. So, that's just to give you a little insight. It was just the daily actions, the daily awareness. And even though I was leaning into my triggers and I was reacting, I would now afterwards come back and be like, okay, that happened. Why did that happen? So it's not about losing our triggers. It's not about not
So
getting
true.
triggered. It's about
Mm-hmm.
understanding that they're there to teach you. Triggers are treasures. I always love that one. And that's where the work is. If we're being triggered, if there's something coming up for us, that's an area that we can heal, that we can bring more awareness to. So, really great point that you brought up, because it's the truth. Like, this is only going to bring us to do that work, to do that healing. It's not just going to put a quick fix on it.
No, yeah, because there is no quick fix. There really isn't a quick fix in anything. I mean, this is just a blessing, and take these blessings and take them. They're all catalysts, and move forward and just keep doing it. I mean, me and you are prime examples, and so many in our community are just prime examples of how this process works. And I think that's mental health is not a scary thing. Mental health is part of how we live. We have physical health, we should have mental health. The stigma needs to be lifted there. We need to take care of our mental health more. We need to adapt different modalities. We need to maybe look at different things. And plant medicines might not be for everybody, but they sure were for me. They sure were a catalyst for me. And I will keep spreading this message till I'm blue in the face, because I feel this is the way to go that a lot of people can benefit from so much.
Absolutely. And I love how you said it is for some people, it's not for everyone. And that's so true too. And even through my journey, like, for me, it feels like the journey of plant medicine brought me away from plant medicine a bit, where in the beginning I was with it so regularly. And
Yeah,
now these past few years has been just like very minimal. Like, I do some microdosing even for the past month and a half. I just got a message like, sit and just use your tools for a little while. And I'm going to go
mhm.
back when I feel it. So, a button down
Absolutely.
in mind, when you get to that place of feeling these things, feel
Yeah.
into it. Don't do it because you're obligated. Because at the end of the day, the medicine is showing us that we're the medicine.
That's so true. So true. We could probably end right there, that we are the medicine, Joe.
I
Thank
like
you
it.
for all you do in this community. Thank you for the support. You're you're one of those people in this community that we need to look up to more and keep as a podium, because we need men like us in this community to keep spreading this message.
I appreciate that so much, Mark. Again, it's so grateful to be part of this community, to continue to spread this message, this vulnerability. If you're watching this, I'm excited to connect with you and happy to be a resource in any way that I can.
All right, Joe. Thanks a lot, brother. You have a great day, my friend.
You too. See you soon.